Hi guys, Dean here from Think Scotland and the Substack, bringing you episode 2 of my quickfire series. Can I ask, does anyone know where the 78-year-old sex offending, secret stealing, committed felon Donald Trump is at the moment? Because I can't seem to find him on the campaign trail anywhere. And it's my job as an opinion writer on politics, American, British, Chinese politics, to actually know. And does he know that he's fighting an election? Because all I can find is information and news and events about Kamala Harris. Now, that's what we're going to talk about today. Kamala Harris, I'm going to quickly introduce to you a couple of reasons why she's easily the best candidate to be top of the Democrat ticket going forward. Now, we've all heard the meme, unburdened by what has been. People mock her, people have laughed at it. But it's actually a very good entry point to explain why Kamala actually is the best candidate for the job. She is unburdened by what has been. There is no burden for the Democratic Party with Iraq war, with the surge, with regime change wars in the Middle East, with extraordinary rendition and torture programs. She is free from all of that baggage. Hillary, whom I supported back in 2016, she was burdened by it. Obama, burdened by it. You know, Kelly. You can go down the list. Yeah, Kamala Harris is free from that burden. She is literally unburdened by what has been in regards to foreign policy debacles. And we'll talk more about this actually, because on foreign policy, Kamala Harris is not a hawk. Take an example, she condemned Trump taking out Iranian head honcho Soleimani. That's actually a demonstration that she's not so hawkish. She's backed the Iran deal, but she's not an appeaser because she has supported sanctioning of Hong Kong officials accused of human rights violations. So she's not a hawk, but she's not an appeaser either. And this reflects the kind of people around her. Kamala Harris's national security advisor is a man called Phil Gordon. Now, unless you're balls deep into politics, which is what my job is day to day as an academic and a writer, you might not know who Phil Gordon is. Well, Phil Gordon, apart from being a progressive and by all accounts of those who know him and meet him and talk to him, a very nice guy, is Kamala's national security advisor. His career history was Obama's first term, he was Assistant Secretary of State for Europe. Second term, he was the Middle East czar. Was involved in the run up to the Iran deal. He has written a book which was highly critical of the United States Middle Eastern neocon foreign policy history and agenda. He's a skeptic when it comes to regime change wars. So Kamala Harris is not a hawkish foreign policy thinker. Her national security advisor is a progressive, has tremendous experience with Phil in the form of Phil Gordon, who's written a brilliant book explaining why America made grave mistakes in the unipolar moment and why regime change wars of the neocon ilk were a disaster. So this puts Kamala Harris in the frame of a pretty good place for those of us who are 35 years old, 9/11 generation. I am highly skeptical of American foreign policy over the course of my lifetime in the Middle East and war, these kind of regime change wars. I'm delighted that Kamala Harris sees things broadly from our younger generation's point of view. I welcome that. She is unburdened by what has been. But we can also go deeper. Her judgment more broadly is pretty sound. We could talk about when she was in the Senate, and I intend to. When she was in the Senate in 2019, she voted for General Mattis to be Donald Trump's Secretary of Defense. Now, that's a good decision because General Mattis turned out when Donald Trump, the sex offending, secret stealing convicted criminal felon Donald Trump, when he was trying to launch an insurrection against American democracy in January 6th, what General Mattis was there, he was the guardrails. He was the grown-up. He protected America and the free world that America is the leader of from the worst instincts of the orange clown. So General Mattis was a very good, safe pair of hands to be Secretary of State for Defense under Trump. Kamala, good shout nominating him and voting for him. She also voted against Gina Haspel. Now, for those of you who don't know, Gina Haspel was put forward to be the director of the CIA. Now, Gina Haspel has been, in my opinion, credibly, but certainly robustly accused of being implicated in the United States of America's extraordinary rendition and black site torture program. For those who might not know about it, during the War on Terror, the United States of America's CIA were involved in extraordinary rendition, that is, kidnapping foreign nationals from their countries or from any country in the world that they could, and putting them to black sites where they were tortured. Gina Haspel has been credibly accused of being involved in that. Kamala Harris voted against that woman, Gina Haspel, being director of the CIA. So that's another good sign that Kamala Harris has excellent judgment. And, you know, the kind of people that she's surrounded by speak to it. Phil Gordon. If Phil Gordon is in her camp, that's a good sign. If she is not burdened by the legacy of regime change wars, and she's not a hawk, and she demonstrates maturity, supporting the Iran deal, whilst also being willing to sanction individuals who are guilty of human rights violations in Hong Kong, she shows that she's not an appeaser, but she's not a warmonger. And what we would see highly likely when she takes over as president of the United States, the first African American, the first Asian American female president in history, and that will happen, I hope and pray. What we will see is the more neoconservative people who have surrounded Joe Biden probably exit stage left. I'm thinking Blinken and Jake Sullivan. And I would be very, very happy to see Jake Sullivan in particular leave the White House. He's National Security Advisor for President Biden, but I'm not a fan of Jake Sullivan. After all, I've seen the emails, which you can see on the screen here, where he literally sent an email saying, yeah, during Operation Timber Sycamore, when the CIA were trying to overthrow the Assad government in Syria, making a civil war 10 times worse, he was admitted that, yeah, quote, we're on the same side as AQ, as in we, the United States government, are arming and helping and are on the same side of Al-Qaeda in Syria. Now, a man who can be so flippant and jaded about foreign policy mistakes and errors like that, I'd be more than happy to see Kamala Harris push him away from the center of power. So out goes the neocons, in comes the sensibles like Phil Gordon. Yeah, Kamala Harris. She's unburdened by what has been. And I for one think, she's got top-notch judgment. She's seriously experienced, and she's completely free from the burdens of the past. Has she got weaknesses? Sure. Let's quickly talk about the biggest weakness, the one the Republicans are going to hit her with. But what we will see is the hypocrisy and the double standards of the Republicans, because everyone says she is Biden's border czar. Except she wasn't, has never been, and isn't. Now, what Kamala Harris was, she was tasked with finding the root causes of population migration in Central America. That's it. Tasked with finding the root causes to explain why people in Central America leave their countries. That's not a border czar by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, it's the same job that President Joe Biden had when he was Obama's vice president. Now, I don't recall the Republican Party saying that Vice President Joe Biden back in the day was Obama's border czar, because he wasn't. And Kamala Harris isn't either. So let's just put that one aside. It's a nonsense talking point that highlights the double standards and the hypocrisies of a Republican Party who don't know what to make of Kamala Harris, who represents youth and a new generation coming up, whereas the Republicans are burdened by an aging 78-year-old, suddenly pretty invisible on the campaign trail, convicted fraudster, 34 counts, sexual assaulter of women, civil trial, found that with E. Jean Carroll. That's who they've got. That's someone I think is eminently beatable. And Kamala Harris, unburdened by what has been, has certainly got the experience, the skills, and the judgment to go right after it. She's going to win, and she's going to make history as she does it. And I, for one, am very excited. There's light at the end of the tunnel at long last. Game on.